The sun had just risen above the sandy sea of the Western Sahara. The air was dry and still, as if even time itself had paused its movement. Against the backdrop of rolling dunes and the deep tones of the desert stood a figure in a bright orange spacesuit. Cat Max adjusted the strap of his backpack, from which a silvery drone peeked out. His loyal companion, Bublik.
Look, Bublik, this is it. Richat Structure, the one that looks like an eye staring straight into space from orbit.
Bublik shifted. His single red eye clicked with slight anxiety.
Is it alive?
Max smiled and crouched down, staring at the giant concentric circles that stretched for dozens of kilometers before him.
No, my friend, it's not alive, but it remembers.
Bublik hovered silently in the air, a little behind. His lens adjusted focus. From the center of the massive pattern to a rocky outcrop near Max's paws.
Are you sure it's natural?
Good question. Some say it's the result of a giant meteor impact. Others, that it's a collapsed dome. Geologists call it an anticline, a structure where the rock layers bend upward. But the way it looks, it's like something left behind by someone, or for someone.
In response, only the sound of the wind. The sand gently shifted under their paws. Max pulled a scanner from his gear and activated a holographic map. The contours of Richat hovered before them, each ring outlined in soft blue light. Bublik studied the image attentively.
Why is it so precise? Even nature is rarely that symmetrical.
That's why we're here, Bublik, to find out.
The giant concentric lines stretched for dozens of kilometers, vanishing beyond the horizon. They appeared and disappeared beneath the sand, as if the winds themselves tried to hide this geological artifact.
It's impossible to measure by eye, isn't it?
It spans about 50 kilometers in diameter, like the whole city of Paris, only instead of buildings, layers of weathered sandstone, quartzite, clay, and time.
Bublik remained silent for a long while. Only his lens scanned the landscape in every spectrum.
Did anyone ever live here?
There used to be a sea. There was life. And maybe there was a story. One erased by the very thing that left these rings.
Max leaned down and touched the ground with his paw.
Geology is a story written in the language of layers. And today, we're reading the first page.
Max stepped onto a rocky ledge and lifted his head to the sky. His eyes shimmered from the sun, which was now climbing higher, covering the dunes in gold. A paw touched the terminal on his chest. The glowing M panel lit up, and a hum immediately filled the air.
Bublik, launch the scan drone. Full vertical profile.
Launch confirmed.
The drone rose higher and higher, and before Cat Max unfolded a landscape that resembled an engraving of an alien world. From above, the view was complete. The eye of the Sahara, its rings, smoothed by wind, stone and sand, lay nested within each other, as if someone had tried to carve perfect shapes into the body of the continent.
It breathes like muscle, not stone.
It is the largest patterned natural ring on Earth, in diameter 45 to 50 kilometers. The center is slightly raised, layers of quartzite and sandstone, weathered and bent. A geological formation,
But it looks perfect.
exactly.
The holographic projection emitted by the drone began to transform into a map. Colored lines indicated different types of rock and elevation changes. Max studied it closely, biting the edge of his whisker.
It's strange. If you look at this structure from the ground, it's just stones, minerals shaped into circles over time. But from the sky, it looks like something made.
Perfect symmetry appears rarely in nature, usually as the result of a series of catastrophes or long time spans.
Max nodded thoughtfully.
Or maybe this planet is trying to show us something.
Bublik turned to him and voiced the question that seemed to be written on Max's face.
Do you really think this is artificial?
Max didn't answer right away. He watched as soft streams of sand drifted over the surface of the concentric rings. His eyes seemed to search for something familiar, a missing element.
I think nature here spoke very loudly. And maybe it wasn't just nature.
He activated another hologram, this time a comparison. On the left, a satellite image of the Eye of the Sahara. On the right, a scaled-down diagram of the city from Plato's description. Rings of land and water, a center with an island, canals. The structure was similar, too similar.
Do you see it? It's not just similar, it's identical. The scale is different, but the proportions are exact.
Maybe coincidence, or maybe ancient engineering.
Max didn't respond. He stepped to the edge of the cliff, knelt down, and lowered his paw to the stone surface. The sand settled, revealing a stone ring. It felt warm to the touch. He closed his eyes.
If something is here, it has been silent for a very long time. But it's still here.
And are we the first to hear it?
Maybe, or maybe the last.
Layer by layer, stone by stone, the earth was telling its story. Cat Max walked slowly along a rocky cliff where millions of years of weathering had exposed the strata. The rocks differed in color: ochre, red, brown, gray. Each layer here was like a sentence in a book few could read.
Bublik, record this layer. I suspect it's sedimentary, and there might be fossil remains here.
The drone hovered nearby, its eye glowing red in focus mode.
Medium hardness, fine-grained structure, possibly sandstone age, over 500 million years.
This layer was once the ocean floor. Creatures swam here that we can't even imagine.
A sandy crater from a past life. How did it even survive?
Silence, time, and a bit of luck.
They stopped near a deep fissure in the rock. Max leaned in. An oval imprint darkened on the wall, a shell, fossilized forever.
We've got a hit. Look how the water etched these pores. And here a scar. Remember when I mentioned erosion? Water, wind, and the movement of the earth itself. Everything left a trace here.
Isn't this just a fracture? But it looks bent upward.
Exactly. That's what an anticline is. Layers pushed up by shifting plates. First it rose. Then it eroded for thousands upon thousands of years. And eventually, the eye remained. Each of us has our own story. But the earth, it writes its story over millions of years and keeps it without words.
So the eye, it's not an impact, not a crater, not a city. It's just the result of time.
Yes and no. It's natural. But sometimes nature creates something that looks artificial. And that's what makes it most incredible.
There's something else here. Possibly additional weathered structures, but it looks circular.
Remember the patterns we saw in the satellite images? Now they're here, beneath our paws.
You mean these spirals aren't just in the ring shape, but also inside the layers?
Exactly, and that changes everything. There might be iron in this rock, or maybe something much older.
What do you mean?
Magnetic traces. Sometimes they show how the planet rotated, and sometimes where the rock came from.
You think it might have been brought here?
Maybe, but to know for sure, we need to dig deeper. Libraries don't always look like places with books. Some of them are cliffs, and every crack is a sentence someone left behind, but didn't sign, and we're reading this book with our paws and with our eyes, but first of all, with our hearts.
All right then, can we finally talk about the real thing now about Atlantis?
Plato, Timaeus, and Critias. In those dialogues, the city is first mentioned, the one that supposedly disappeared beneath the waves. Water, an island, 3 rings of land, 2 of water. A city of gods, a city that fell due to pride.
And you think this is the Eye of the Sahara?
See for yourself. The proportions, the number of rings. The center is elevated. Palaces could have stood there. Round it, canals, urban zones, even an outlet to the sea, though now it's sand. But geologists say there was once water here, a lot of water.
Wait a second! Plato wrote that Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Heracles. That means beyond Gibraltar. That's Africa. That could be it.
It's not proof, Bublik, but it's a clue, and there are many such clues. Cartographers who had never been to Africa drew strange circles here. Some even wrote remnants of a great city. These are legends, fictions, but sometimes fiction's no more than truth.
What if Atlantis really is here, just without the water?
That's the trap. We want to believe, and the brain starts seeing connections.
But do you want to believe?
I want to know.
But if this is Atlantis, where are the temples, the metal orichalcum, signs of civilization?
Ancient sources described orichalcum, the fiery metal mined only in Atlantis. It shimmered like copper and gold at once.
Do you really think that?
I don't think. I record, I collect, and I listen. Bublik, remember, the real Atlantis doesn't have to be made of stone. Sometimes it's in how we search, not in what we find.
Philosopher!
Cat, but with a degree. There was once a sea here.
He was kneeling beside an exposed stone layer. A distinct structure ran through it, a fine line with an imprint resembling a shell. Max brushed his paw over the rock, gently blowing away the dust.
A true fossil. Look at that perfect spiral. It was a creature. Once.
But this is a desert! Water's hundreds of kilometers away! How is this even possible?
50 million years ago, the Sahara wasn't a desert, but an ocean floor. Ammonites swam here. Sea urchins, armored fish, even prehistoric cetaceans. All that remains are scars. And these ripples on the rock, they're not erosion. They're actual sedimentary structures. Deposits from water, quietly settling to the bottom day after day.
So it's not just geology here, but biology too, past life.
Exactly, and there's still plenty of it. We just have to find it. This is treasure, but not of gold, a treasure of knowledge.
Calcium, phosphorus, limestone inclusions, perfectly preserved structure, possibly 70 million years old. But why is everything so well preserved here?
Ideal conditions. Dryness. No vegetation. No biological decay. And maybe, because no one's touched this place, everyone thought it was just rings in the sand. But it's an archive. A natural archive.
So a library?
Yes, without books, but with life forms. A history carved in stone.
It's an ammonite, spiral form, with chambers. Use gas pockets inside to change depth, like an underwater airship.
It survived millions of years to leave me a clue. Thank you, friend. There was an ocean here, and though the water is gone, everything it held remains. And now, instead of waves, it's our paws here, and your eye.
The first movement, as if someone had quietly exhaled over the sand. Cat Max stopped. His ears twitched instinctively. His paw froze mid-motion.
Do you hear that?
Wind, pressure shift. A sand stream has formed about half a kilometer away, but it's intensifying quickly.
Max looked up. The horizon had blurred. Instead of sharp outlines of rocks and dunes, smudged silhouettes, like someone had smeared paint on an old map.
It's a storm. Bublik. A big one.
Confirmed. Dust cloud moving at over 70 kilometers per hour. We have at most 10 minutes.
Prep for evacuation. We're collecting the samples, closing equipment. Begin data upload.
Copy that.
Let's pack up. Quickly.
The sandy air grew heavier. It no longer slid past. It shoved. It rumbled in the distance. Not loud, but relentless.
Storm approaching. Visibility decreasing. Navigation system switching to emergency mode.
Bublik, stay close. Fly beside me. If we get separated, hold coordinates on me.
I'll keep you centered. But Max, did you regret it?
Regret what?
What we didn't finish. Maybe a few more layers. A few more pieces of evidence.
Regret? No. I saw what mattered.
What exactly?
That we're only here temporarily. Like wind. Like sand. And even the strongest knowledge can be washed away. That's why it must be protected.
How do you preserve it?
I write it with my paws in the dust, then, in memory.
The storm rolled in closer. Now, nothing could be heard except the howling. The sand tore through the air. Bublik wobbled slightly mid-flight. Max moved forward, hunched, covering his face with a paw.
Just a little more. Friend, just a bit further.
When the storm had passed, the sky became clear again. But the world was no longer the same. Sand had settled on the stone. The lines of the structure emerged once more. Not as sharply as before, but still recognizable. Max stood on a rise where the wind no longer reached. His silhouette stood out against the ochre horizon.
It survived.
Of course it did. This drawing of the Earth has held for millions of years. One storm is no obstacle. You know, I thought we'd find something loud here. A discovery, a signal. The name Atlantis carved into stone. But instead, it was quiet.
Sometimes that's what matters most. The presence, the place doesn't shout, but it speaks. Everything we saw, it's the past, preserved in form. But the feeling that remains, it's present. It's ours. Maybe that's the most important thing we're taking with us.
Will you come back here?
Yes, someday. But not as a seeker, as a listener.
They sat in silence a little longer. Then both, as if on cue, stood up. Ahead stretched a landscape. Desert, light. Horizon. The eye of the Sahara remained behind them, like a faded memory. Max stepped forward. His paws left light imprints, which the wind began to erase immediately. Bublik flew beside him, a little higher, in silence.
Ready for the next location?
Ready. And you?
I'm always ready.
And they moved forward. One figure in a spacesuit, the other, a small sphere pulsing with light, over sands that knew more than they could ever say.